Great morning, great afternoon, great evening, wherever this conversation finds you. I am Travis Gray. This is Gray Transforms, and today we are blessed to be transforming with another great guest, my Haka brother, Sean Graves. Sean has a podcast called Follow Your Path and a YouTube channel called Follow Your Path Live. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. There was so much fire in that. I almost got up and started doing the haka.
We were talking about it. We could have commented right here. I'm glad you're feeling the fire. So yeah, I've had a couple of episodes with some Haka brothers. One was Leon, who led the Haka for Life organization. I want to get Jetty on here for sure, Jetty Azuma. Then I had Ben Giacchini on here when I was down in Costa Rica. That was a great time. We did that Haka. So it's great to just be able to connect with more Haka brothers. I've really appreciated your content. That's why I reached out to you and thought we would have a great conversation. At one point, you were doing a little bit of a little comedy, like a little spiritual comedy stuff, and I got some kicks out of that. I really like stand up comedy and stuff, and I like that people are creative enough to bring in these spiritual hippie woke kind of culture things into it and just make fun of it a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that in, man. I'm gonna actually get back into that. I took a little break. The inspiration wasn't there as much, but now it's like really coming back in, and I have lots of great ideas for the comment section of our video that we just had that went viral. And I feel like comedy is such a awesome way to break down the walls for people like who are just maybe peeking their awareness into that space of transformation, healing, spirituality, all that type of thing. So I think we need, especially for guys, I think we need more of that, like joking around, but also like kind of leading the way and educating a little bit. And I think those two go really well together.
Yeah, that's so true. Comedy does really break down the walls, and I think that it is necessary, maybe to even learn to laugh, to be learning to laugh at yourself, to be learning to laugh at in this spiritual space. I'm in transpersonal psychology, and these
Mhm.
are spiritual academic people, and you got to even laugh at that. What the hell kind of profession did you get yourself into? Even like when you're leading men's groups and this psycho spiritual counseling and things like this, like that, all of that is it's quite funny in some way. And it does, the work is the work and it's important, but it doesn't have to be so serious. I would even say that if there is too much tension held, then you're not really breaking through in all of the openness and all of the spaces that at the highest iteration of what we are intending on. You just don't get there without breaking down those walls, and comedy does a great job of doing that.
Totally, man. I love that this is coming up right now because it's really starting to be more alive for me. Like I did stand up comedy for a couple years when I kind of leaped out of the matrix, out of the 9 to 5 world, and was like, okay, I'm doing something different. I don't know what yet. At the time, I had started comedy and improv comedy, and I was like, you know what? I'm having so much fun doing this that I'm just gonna start doing booked shows and keep doing open mics, and it just kept being such a fun thing. And so I did that off and on for 2 years in LA, and that's just kind of a little bit of a dark world to hang out in for too long. Back then it was anyways, in like 2017. Recently, just to speak to this point, I've been finding that more and more. And just from a psychology perspective, it's like when you can laugh at something, it signals to the brain that it's not really a problem for you anymore. It's like if you're laughing at it, clearly it's not an issue or an obstacle at that point. So if you can start to take those things less seriously, it sort of takes the weight out. And to your point, there's like a balance. There's times for both. But I recently I was having I was doing a shamanic journey with this woman, and it was very intense, and the energies were very strong. And for whatever reason, I just could not stop laughing. I was hysterically laughing, and I could tell she was a little freaked out at first, but I just was like, I'm sorry, but I'm also not, because we're learning, I think, as part of an evolutionary process, like that we need to laugh more. We have so much suppressed, and the laughter just helps it get out in such a joyful way and brings us so into the present moment that I think that's what's coming through right now. And then she started laughing with me as she's doing this huge healing process, and it just felt really good to be able to bring that light. And there's a reason they call it lightheartedness. That laughter brings a lightness into the room, because it does. It takes the weight off, and all of a sudden you're in the moment, and you're not thinking about anything else. So I think it's a really incredible tool for transformation.
Yeah, it is an incredible tool for transformation. I think that it's a great point of like integration is not just, when you're integrating in a more healthy fashion your traumas or whatever limiting beliefs that you might have in your narrative. It's not just iteration, it's not just new words and revision, and it can be that, and that can be really powerful, but it's also what is the emotional tone that is attached to those memories and things like this. And what you just mentioned about laughter could be this new tone that you are setting to, like even laughing at some of the, I can think of the past times that my limiting beliefs have been really stifling of my progress in life. And I can laugh that, like, it was never an external enemy. It was always me. And how dare I do that to myself?
Yeah, man. There's a reason there's the laughing Buddha. It's like
Mm,
when you reach enlightenment, you realize that like it's all big play. You could
yes.
look at it as a joke. It does seem very real and serious at times. Yes, there's the spectrum of emotions, but at the end of the day, it's like one big cosmic play, or at least that's the space that I play in.
Yeah, I think it was a Sufi master that I had met some time ago. Did like a workshop with him, and he talked about like two concepts in Sufi mysticism. This is like Islamic mysticism, this Sufism, and he was talking about how the universe was created, and there was this idea that a big like a big cosmic horn was blown by like God itself, by the ethereal entity that is in and through all things, blows into this horn, and that like vibration from the horn is what creates the universe. In that same tone, there's this ethereal universal laughter, and sometimes if you're really quiet and really attuned and in alignment and in the right space, you can hear like ha 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 ha. You can hear like this, you can hear that laughter that is echoing through the universe, creating everything.
Calling yourself a fucking asshole and beating yourself up and bringing shame in and being like, you idiot. It's just like this, you silly goose. Look at you.
Mm.
And it just feels like so much more, of a partnership, and like that part of me, the ego, the inner child, those different aspects, I think they appreciate that. So it's not like this dictator cracking the whip like, maybe our parents used to do, or authority figures. So I feel like that's been a big shift, to just be super light with myself and joke around and sing things like silly goose.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But I'm reminded of recently seeing this comedian. He was doing this like a PowerPoint of a Venn diagram, but it was like a three-part Venn diagram, and he was talking about the differences between. I think I'm forgetting one of them. It was like the differences between nerd and dork and something else, and there's like a fine line between like the obsessive, some of the obsession, it creates like stalker vibes, but dork is like really intelligent and social. I think
Yeah. Like
the social
quirky.
aspect of it was a part of it as well. And my uncle growing up, My uncle used to call me super dork, and when I saw this, I was like, oh, I get that. I understand. Maybe he saw that way ahead of time, because I'm into some kind of nerdy stuff, and like I'm just trying to have a good time in all of this adventure that is life. Even like having a good time when it is kind of dark, and sometimes that can be a bypassing as well. So there is a both and always important. It can be a bypassing, but I have found myself sometimes in conflictual conversations in relationship or in other situations where I do have a laugh that comes up because I'm like, what the hell is human life that we are in this silly conflict about you needing to wash your dishes or something like that with one of my
Yeah.
roommates or something with the relationship or something like that. But I do love to let that laughter out and just let it be, let it go.
Yeah, man. It's like in improv, if anyone's taking a class that's listening to this, you'll see a lot of people laugh in a scene because they're uncomfortable and it breaks the tension. But what makes improv so special and magical is when you can keep that tension going a little bit and you build it. So it is kind of like this art form. It's like this discernment of within yourself of knowing when the time to do it is, when like you're doing it to try to soothe yourself. Like, as with anything, like you said, it's a dance
Yeah.
that you learn.
Improv is an important one there because like that laughter can come up. Yes, and the whole thing with the improv, like the main thing is yes, and how can I keep this bit going? Yes, and there's never a stopping point. There's never a no. There's never all the statements are open ended. You keep it open ended by yes, and when you close an end to it, then it can't continue to grow and thrive in things. So even when that laughter is coming up or any of those emotions are coming up, even the laughter comes up, yes, and there are serious things that we need to get done too. The sadness, the anger comes up, and there is some silly goose things to be laughing at here.
Yeah.
That's really great. So I did want to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about your Follow Your Path podcast, and the things that you've been doing in that regard? What,
Yeah,
what
man.
what's the mission there?
Yeah. So follow your path. My podcast, my first podcast name was the Lighthouse Podcast, and then I switched it to Follow Your Path because I was at the time doing Uber driving in LA, all over the place. I met so many. I did like 5 or 6 thousand rides, something crazy like that. So I interacted with like every archetype, every character you could imagine. I realized that I would always get into pretty deep conversations with people, very like heart authentic type convos, because I was just so bored with surface level. For my own sanity, I would just lead people to that. And I realized that so many people were not following their path and they were running off of a program. They were just doing what society told them to do, what their parents told them they, should be doing. And it's so much of it's unconscious, right? And I would ask people the question like, "Hey, what are you interested in right now? What's lighting you up? What's exciting you in life? Like, what are you gravitating towards?" And m- most people would be like, "I've never really thought of that." And I was like, "Wow, that's surprising how many people are in this place where they don't really think about that." So, I wanted to have conversations with people who were following their unique path that was in direct correlation, with their Earth School curriculum. Like, why am I here? How am I here to serve? What do I want to explore and discover? Okay, here's the people that are doing it. So you can see that there's people doing it and receive the energy of that. And hopefully that will give you some kind of permission because they're no different than you are. You have everything that they do. They just are saying yes to it. So then I changed the name to Follow Your Path, and then everything that I was doing fell under that umbrella, and all the coaching and counseling work I was doing was all oriented on getting to know yourself, self discovery, seeing what your biggest challenges in life are uniquely to you, things that light you up, what you're excited about, and how you want to contribute and serve, like from your heart, and not just some dart you throw at the board, but like what's really there for you. And so I feel like, selfishly, I guess maybe you could say, envision and desire a planet that everyone's following their unique path and living in their dharma and receiving the freaking joy of that, where they're waking up and it's not some shitty day groundhog experience over and over, because I went through that for a very long time. I know how much it sucks, and it's easy to just get caught in those mental loops. So I know the more people that say yes to this, we're all contributing to the collective energy, and it's going to make it easier, and we'll give more permission the more that we see people waking up, saying yes, and realizing the only reason they chose shit they didn't want to do is because they were programmed that way. You silly goose, you don't need to do that. Like, that's where we could bring some laughter to that. Like, because it does feel heavy when you're going through that transitional process. So, yeah, that's kind of the whole story around Follow Your Path, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean the journey of following your path, like that journey has a lot of obstacles and a lot of like blockages set in the way for a good purpose, for a good reason, and a silly goose laugh at all of those things happening. The transition into following your path rather than whatever you were doing before is a thing, and then when you're on your path, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy
I think it's
by
way
any
harder.
stretch of the imagination. It's way harder. Yeah, yeah, it's way harder than the other thing. Then it goes to show, like, well, then why would I pick that?
Yeah.
Why would I do that if it's so much harder than doing this other thing? But once you decide to go on that path, whatever is truest to you, I think it'll make sense then why, even though it's the harder way, it is the way that makes the most sense. I love that vision. I love that mission. I was reminded of there was a capstone project that I did at the end of my bachelor's degree 8 years ago now. I went around. I live in San Jose, California. I live near San Jose State University, and I went around and I had interviews with 10 San Jose State students, and I asked them a lot of questions along the lines that you had with your Uber riders and things like this. I had these questions about why why they're in the concentration that they're in. Why are they majoring in what they're majoring in? Why are they going to San Jose State University? What do they want in their life? The research question, the main research question was, do people want transformation in their lives? Do they
Ooh.
even want transformation? There's so many programs and products and coaches, and there's all kinds of things, and I would say at times it seems like there's still not enough. There could definitely still be more of these transformative programs and things like this for people. It's so that we do live in a world where everybody is following their own path. But it was a question that seemed so obvious that it had not been asked, is how I felt. It was like, people are kind of assuming that everybody else wants transformation in their lives. Like,
Mm.
maybe somebody doesn't want to follow their path because their path is the harder way, and they've now made a decision just to live a life that has decided not to do that. That's not something that I'm aligned with. That's not something that I think is the best way forward in their life. I don't think that is the best choice for that person. I in fact think that it's maybe an incredibly bad choice, like economically in some way. Like that, when I say economically, I mean like for the organic growth of the collective. It's not good for them to not be following their own path. It's not good for their communities and their families and their friends and all of the people that get into interaction with them. However, somebody might make those kinds of decisions. I found in the study that a lot of people were going a certain route because of their family, because of these social stigmas that made it feel like they couldn't go be whatever else that they wanted to be. And instead, I'm in computer science because we're in the Silicon Valley, and San Jose State has a decent program in that. Nursing, a very competitive program for nursing. It seems like it's going to be good money. I'll be doing something of giving back to others. When asked this question about when like asking all of these questions, this interview about, do people want transformation, the results were yes. All of these people wanted transformation, but it wasn't clear to them how to go about doing that. It wasn't clear to them that they had another option than the path that they were on, because maybe they hadn't had some of these thoughts before.
Yeah, man. It's as you were saying that, a couple just kind of funny things came up. I remember when I was making that transition and I was kind of in that leap of faith place, not knowing what the next thing was going to be. I remember I had all my survival stuff coming up so intensely that I would look at women who were like walking with their babies like in a stroller, and I would say things like, must be nice just getting strolled around and getting taken care of, like, because I felt so alone and like so broken and so, like, I don't know what I'm doing, that I was like envious of a baby that was fully taken care of. And then those other people that you were mentioning, of maybe they don't want transformation, I would notice some of them, and I'd be like, "Look at you with your vacation life." While I'm over here like, you know, shedding all these layers, and I'm just sitting there judging them like, "Oh, you just get to be blissfully ignorant." And I'm over here like with all this awareness, which I think is part of the waking up process, right? Like you start judging people who aren't doing it. And then, later on down the line, I started to see myself doing that, and it's like, all right, if you were to have a conversation with them, I'm sure they're dealing with some kind of challenge, and especially in the social media age, like a lot of people pretending that they're happy. And for men, I think we have this thing where we we put on a lot of different masks, and we're really good at holding stuff in and pretending like, oh, it's all good, man, yeah, it's great. And not being vulnerable in what we're really feeling. When I saw that, I was like, you know what? My biggest desire is authenticity. I really want to just be the most me that I can possibly be. And every morning I wake up, I'm like, God, creator, spirit, like, show me more of who I am and who you created me to be. Like, I'm open, show me. And it does that. And it's really cool. And I love when I see that in other people. Like when other people are in the energy of authenticity, or we're having conversations like this, I love to be in that energy. It feels so good. And I think there was a study done in the last couple of years. I forget which university it was, but they measured authenticity as on the vibrational scale, like not even close, way beyond even gratitude. And that surprised me. I was like, huh, that's fascinating. So I think the world is starving for it, but people are starting to embrace it and get curious about that. So it's kind of a cool time in that way.
Yeah, that is how I saw your message about authentically creating and freeing oneself. That seemed to be, some general words that was operating in your message. What was the moment that you decided to follow your own path? What was the moment of inspiration? That study that I did, I tried to name that moment, as a result of the study, like this from one moment to the next. I am doing this thing, or I have been inspired. Something has happened. It could be anything. Could have dropped in. The seed was such a significant impact into the soil that is myself, that from one moment to the next, I am now moving in a different direction. I have a different way of being, a different center locality in myself to move towards my transformation. What was the moment for you that you decided to follow your path?
It was a very distinct moment. And of course, there's, series of powerful choices that you make and series of moments like that. But I'd say the one that stands out the most, when I was working in the corporate world and I was doing sales for broadcast and TV, like movies, entertainment, stuff like that. I had just gotten back recently from an ayahuasca retreat on the Amazon, and this is back in like 2014. It's really blown up since then in ways that I'm like, wow. I didn't. No one really knew what it was back then, and I didn't know anything about it. And then I listened to Aubrey Marcus on Joe Rogan's podcast, and for whatever reason, it just caught me and was like, you need to go do this. So, anyways, a million things I could say about that. I got back from the trip, and I went back to work, and I was restarting my computer, and I'm sitting there in khakis, and I got this collared shirt on, and I can see my reflection in the computer. And I just had, it was like time slowed down, and I'm just looking at myself. And I remember saying, maybe even a little bit out loud, what the fuck am I doing? What is this? Why am I here? How did I get here? Because I'd been so blown open from that experience, and my paradigm had just been shattered. And I realized none of it was me. And I wanted to just quit that day. I became more rational about it. And I also realized like that brought up a lot of fears around a steady paycheck and paying your bills and all that type of thing. So I ended up staying there for like another 3-4 months. But that was a very powerful moment where I had to get up and like take a walk outside, because I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. This is not my life. This is not who I am. And I knew that there was something completely different coming. And then a month later, our company sold very quickly, and we got moved to this new office by the company that bought them. And it was so shitty. Like the environment was so brutal and our environment wasn't that great to begin with, but this new one was like, there's no decorations. It was stale. It was dark. It was just gross. And it was such a funny cue from the universe to be like, all right, man, it's your time. I moved you into this place to give you the extra kick in the ass. Like, and I leapt really quick after that.
Awesome. So you found like it wasn't just the ayahuasca experience itself, but it was the reintegration back into, am I going to continue to live my life this way? After I've just had this phenomenal experience, am I going to continue to be on this path?
Yeah.
Or am I going to make some changes in my life? That's great. What were some of the first things that you did to begin changing your life?
Yeah, I made it. I'd always wanted to go to California, and I went on a trip to visit a buddy um, pretty prior to before I decided to move over there. Actually, no, I did a road trip, and with a friend from Boston. We started in San Diego. We drove up to Oregon to visit my brother who was going to school there. And we like went skydiving. We did a epic mushroom journey in the Joshua Tree. That was like a huge thing for me. So there's just like all these pieces that started to come in, right? Because it's like when your belief systems change and all of a sudden you're seeing things differently, then the outer reality begins to reflect that back to you, and it starts talking to you, and you realize like, wow, I'm in an intelligent like field that is reflecting back to me like the changes that are happening inside of me. And I knew when I got back from that trip, California was going to be my landing spot. I wanted to be near a beach, have the ocean to support me. And I knew that I sold my car, I quit the job, and I literally just moved out there with no plan, no idea of anything that I was going to do. Long story short, I ended up with no money left. I burned through it super fast, and I didn't want to deal with what was coming up around responsibility. The last thing I wanted to do was go back to the 9 to 5, and I was just resisting that every way that I could. And I literally had $5 left in my bank account. Might have been even less than that. And I went to the Peyote Church in Wilcox, Arizona, and because I was so scared about that. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I'm not putting this burden on anyone. I can't ask my parents for anything. And as we were driving back from that experience, I got accepted to Uber after 4 months of nothing, and it was like, you can start making money today. And I was like, wow, okay, that's such a beautiful support. And then the gap started to come in between that, but it was a moment of like, I think I'm gonna die. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I waited till the last minute and avoided all of this stuff inside of me. Here I am. And then at the last second, life was like, I got you. You're good.
That's awesome. The universe came in and took care of you.
Yeah.
I love looking back on those moments. I don't like being in that moment where you only have
No.
$5 left in your bank account, but
Yeah.
I love looking back on those moments and thinking about just kind of being nourished by we made it out of that moment, you know.
Yes.
And it just it's a good memory. Like I had uh I'll squeeze it short. Just when I moved to the Bay Area, I moved from Omaha, Nebraska to the Bay Area. I only had $3,000 to my name, and in the first 2 weeks, and I only had a bicycle. I had a bicycle. I was overpacked. I had 6 bags. I had $3,000 to my name. In the first 2 weeks, I spent $2,000 on hotel rooms.
Ooh.
So the Bay Area was expensive, and I'm trying to find a place every day. I'm out. I'm on Craigslist. I'm riding my bike to all four corners of the Bay Area to try to find a place to live, and I'm just running. It's happening quickly. My money is getting drained by these hotel rooms. And then like on the weekends, the hotel room was more expensive than the weekdays. I had to shift from one hotel room to the next, but I had 6 bags, so I had to like take a couple on my bicycle and like make trips to the new hotel room and back and forth. And I had found a place in Sunnyvale, and I had it was $980 for 1 month's rent. I had $20 left, and I'm looking at my window, looked at an In-N-Out burger, so that was a problem. And then right around the corner from my apartment was a Subway, and the month that I got my 1 month in Sunnyvale. That month it was a $5 foot long month. So I took that $20. I bought 1 foot long, and I would cut it into 4 pieces so that I could eat just like a quarter of the sandwich at a time. And then that's what kept me going. And then I got these other jobs, and it's just it's a funny moment. I had told myself before moving to the Bay Area that if I could make it here, I can make it anywhere, because this is one of the most expensive places in the world.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this happen, and once I do, I'll have just incredible confidence and courage in myself and conviction in myself to just do anything, anywhere, anytime, whatever I want to do, whatever I need to do. And those are good moments. So like even the the bottoms that people hit, the bottoms that people experience, it could be a laughing moment, it could be a silly goose moment, and it can be an incredibly character building moment. It builds resiliency. Without those experiences, there is no resiliency. There's just expectation that the universe and the world and society is going to just keep giving and giving and giving to you, and maybe you're not anticipating you having to do something for it.
Yes. I think this is a really beautiful thing because to me, one of the major themes that humanity is moving through is the survival programming. And of course, right, it's in our DNA. Like our ancestors went through crazy shit. Their conditions were extreme. And now in our modern day, we've solved all of that, but yet that's still living inside of us to the point where someone beeps at us in traffic and we get hit with that response or whatever might trigger it, and it's like I'm gonna die and I need to react and I need to keep myself safe and do anything it takes to survive. And I watched this, man, like playing out inside of me when I was purging this, and that's why life and my soul, I believe, had me in that place, because it's like you got to do this. This is part of why you're here. And I remember I got I had to leave my apartment in Newport Beach suddenly, like almost overnight. The lease fell apart, and the whole story behind that. And I had, I think at that point, $200 left to my name and nowhere to go. And I remember thinking as I'm packing my stuff up that day, I was like, I don't have anywhere to go. I'm all right. I'm going to live out of my car. I think that's what I have to do. And I started to live out of the car. And then shortly after that, I had this experience where I was in this parking lot and I was just so in survival and just feeling so sorry for myself and so victimized and blah blah blah. And I was hungry, so I was going to get an acai bowl. And there is this dude in this nice car, this Italian guy, and he's like, "Hey, young man, come over here." And I went over to him, and he's got these like suits, and he's saying he's got to catch a flight, and he has these suits that he got from some like Armani conference or whatever, and he can't take them with him because the taxes or whatever would be too high. And so he's like, this is a $2,000 suit. Like, I don't want to just like I'll sell this to you for a fraction of the cost. Like, I'll give it to you for like $200. And I was in such a desperate place. I'm like, this is the universe helping me out. Like, I'll buy this suit for $200 and then I'll sell it for 1,500 or 2,000. And I was so blinded by the survivalism stuff, and I went and took out all the money I had in the ATM and I gave it to this guy. And then right when he drove away, I just had this sinking feeling of like I just got scammed. And I guess got scammed so bad. I got worked. And I went online and I said like Newport Beach suit scam, and all these things started popping up around these guys that were doing it all over the place. It's like this faux pas suit that's worth nothing that looks maybe a little bit nice in the outside. And I just like sank, and I went so deep into victim mode, and I was crying in my car. And then I was like, I need to get that acai bowl. That will make me feel better. And I went into the place, and on the speakers, right at the chorus part, it was Boys to Men, End of the Road playing, and I just knew it was for me. I'm at the end of the road of the old way, of the old life. And I'm eating my fruit bowl in my car, doing a mixture of laughing and crying, looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, what is this? And it was just such a humbling moment. And I feel like that was a big thing, though. That was a big thing to move through, and it humbled me and it taught me so much. And I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done living like that.
Damn. I think I would have bought that Armani suit too. I like that gentlemanly stuff. If he told me it's $2,000, $200, yeah, I
It's a
might have
good
walked away
deal.
with that suit too. It seemed like a good deal, huh?
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, man, there's been so many moments like that on my journey of like it just like getting scammed or falling into I've had my bicycle stolen in the Bay Area 5 times in the first 5 years of living here. It just
Oh,
kept getting stolen. I when
one
I
per
the first
year.
bicycle I had here, it was like $1,000 hybrid bicycle, and it was parked outside my job. I was working at the mall at the time, like one of my jobs at the time was Chipotle. Another job was I was working on watches. So I was at this watch kiosk, so those little shops in the center of the mall aisle. So I wasn't even in an actual store. I was in a kiosk. I was happy to be there, but I was fixing watches and things. You can't just like take your bicycle into the back of the store or anything. It's like it's a kiosk. So I
Yeah.
have it locked up outside. And then one day I just this was just early on in my journey in California. I walk outside and my whole bicycle's gone. So I'm like, oh shit, that was $1,000 bicycle. And I'm like, oh, mall security, no, you guys got to do something about this. Like the police don't. It was my first time finding out that the police don't do anything if your bicycle gets stolen. They don't give a fuck.
Especially in
um,
California.
yeah, especially in California, but damn, yeah, those scams are crazy.
And it teaches you to like attachment to material stuff, right? It's like you have to learn sometimes the hard way. You lose these things, and you realize how attached you are to them and how much of your energy you've put into them. And life can snatch it away at any time. A person can snatch it away, and there's no other way to learn to let go of some of these like strong attachments to material things that we have, because it's all going to go at some point earlier than maybe we wanted to. But it's like, it's so good to learn that early on, of like, you get out the, oh, my bike's stolen, but then you're like, all right, let it go, on to the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah. I bought this suit, but I'll look good in it. Did you
I
ever
threw
wear
the
that
suit
suit?
away.
You immediately threw it away?
Well, I kept it in the back of the car for a little bit, and I ended up tossing it. Or no, actually, I think I ended up donating it to some clothing place, because every time I looked at it, it just symbolized how much I just got scammed and how much of an idiot I was. So I couldn't keep it anymore.
Yeah, that's tough. I would have loved to hear that you wore that suit to your next interview and got a job or something like that. That'd have been great.
I need to modify my story. If I write a book, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's so funny. So, another thing that got me wanting to have a conversation with you was recently you had this conversation. I think you had mentioned him, your friend Christopher August.
Hmm.
You had this live conversation on Instagram. So, what is gay about men's circles? So what was it? You had a Twitter post that a lot of people were shaming men's work, calling it gay and stuff like this. What was going on there?
Yeah, it was super interesting. I mean, it was an Instagram reel that we made, and somehow it got shared on Twitter by this guy that had a huge account with a lot of followers, and then it just went like wildfire, and it had like 10 million views on Twitter, and then on Instagram I think it's almost up to like 300K now. And you would think that's cool, but the amount of hatred, the amount of judgment, the amount of gay comments and race stuff, and this isn't manly, this is like the most feminine thing I've ever seen, this, like, our ancestors would cringe seeing this type of thing. And for those listening, it was a breakdown of the video, as it showed a guy uh, rage releasing, screaming into the ground, and like kind of shaking because he had so much rage in him. And then after that, we were all in a circle and we held him up in the air. And that's the crux of the video. Me experiencing that for the first time and then doing it, a bunch more times in different men's circles. It was so visceral. It was so like, holy shit, I feel alive. Like, this is real emotion coming out. Like, we're really letting ourselves go there. And then to be held and supported, because your body, after you let out that much rage, is just like, you're exhausted. And to feel the support of guys around you that just like witnessed you in that and then are holding you up, which is just symbolic. That's why we do it. It's just, you're getting, you can totally let go and let yourself feel that support. And it feels cool when you're up in the air like that. But these guys just said it was the gayest thing ever. And just an avalanche, a tsunami of comments like that came in. And it just showed me the collective shadow that I think a lot of guys are operating in. And I know that because I used to be that guy that would see a video like that and say those things. And I know a lot of it's like, quote unquote, joking around. And behind that joking around, there's also the judgment and there's also fear. So we can joke all day. I love that. I think, and people don't realize men's work, there's a lot of that, right? You don't lose it. But there's this judgment of men showing emotion and doing things that are different than what they're used to, aka holding it in and, hey, I'll go to the gym and that will heal my emotions. That a lot of guys said that too. Like, hey, have you guys ever heard of a gym? Like, that works pretty well. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I can guarantee you, if I had a 30-minute conversation with you, I would hear all the stuff going on and your emotions are whack. It's in a rough place for sure. So yeah, it went
100%.
wildly viral and it's continued. And so it's brought up this whole conversation around men's work and men showing emotions and all that type of thing.
100%. So many people of those comments, so many of the comments are coming from men that have not ever been in a circle of 100 men.
Yeah.
and it is an incredible experience. The way that we met in the Haka group
Yeah.
was an incredible time, an incredible experience, very vulnerable. I
Yeah.
remember walking away from that being like when I went back home to the Bay Area, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, a man that was in therapy or in like a counseling program of sorts at the time, and I'm talking to him about this experience that I just went on. Would have loved for him to go. He didn't want to go, and I told him, it was some borderline. It was like it was my first experience having so many hugs with so many men. We did this activity that was kind of like a group hug every time. Like there are like many different prompts, and the
Yeah.
prompts came from men speaking to their traumas or speaking to their pain, speaking to some scar, some wounding in their experience. And the more that other men had also experienced that thing, then that we moved closer and closer in circle, and it
Mm-hmm.
became this group hug thing. And it was a great experience. Now, on the outside, I am laughing at that a little bit, of this, like all of this manly hugging was a little strange, especially to me, as that being kind of my first time in a group like that.
Yeah.
But I have had a handful of other experiences of being in men's circles of greater numbers, and it is always so powerful. Uh, the Sacred Sons. They do a couple of groups at that Envision Festival that I had mentioned to you before the before our podcast started. I had been to this music festival 2 different years, and a big part of what I was drawn to in that festival was that it was going to be this opportunity to be in the Sacred Sons space, and one of the founders of the Sacred Sun Space, or maybe a couple of the founders, was a part of was one of the Haka brothers at that Haka event.
Yeah. Adam.
Several years. Adam, exactly.
Yep.
And so Adam was great to connect with and be around, and they had facilitated that sort of experience where some emotional charged situations, some emotional flooding from some of these guys, it was then held up, yes, symbolically, but even like somatically, it has been released, and it's hard to put into words in a way that is going to be received by some men that are out there judging these kinds of groups.
Yeah.
But if they could think to themselves, when have you ever been in a group with not even 100 men? How about 50 men? When have you been in a group with 50 other men speaking about men's things? It's not sexual. It is empathetic. It's nourishing for this therapeutic value that you get from being able to speak your truth to other men that are not there to judge you, but are there to mirror that experience. My father passed away when I was very young, and when I first went to the Sacred Sons group, we probably did something of similar sort that I just didn't remember at the Haka event as well. But when I had the first Sacred Sons thing that I went to, the Envision Festival, I had spoken about not having a father. A lot of those men in those comments have not had a father.
Yeah.
They don't have some of the parental figures to have this healthy upbringing, and it's unfortunate that that has happened, and it's an opportunity also that they're building their resilience. Their character has an opportunity to be built, or an opportunity for them to shy away and be the kind of person that makes comments like that, to experience this brotherly knowing that I am not alone in not having a father, that
Yeah.
these other guys have grown to be great men, and they also didn't have fathers. It doesn't mean that I am locked into my scarring and my wounding and my traumas, my generational traumas, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was great to hear you and Christopher having this authentic conversation about those things going on. What was coming up for you as you were reading some of those comments?
At first, it was kind of a mixture. It was sort of multidimensional. I felt anger. I felt almost this emotional state that I hadn't felt since I was like a teenager. You know, all the way back to recess when you used to get in arguments and people would take sides and people would make fun of you, and it brought that up for me. And then I realized, I'm like, the emotional level that I'm in right now is where a lot of these guys are that haven't done the inner work. Because a lot of these comments, my first thought was, this is like fourth, fifth grade back of the bus type lingo. That's the energy I feel behind this. And I get that. And that's what I was feeling, that too within myself. And then I realized, like, the shadow that was showing itself. Interestingly enough, it was like right before the summer solstice, which energetically and again symbolically is like the most light of the year, where all things get illuminated and things are drawn out of the subconscious and brought to light to be seen. And the fact that it got 10 million views when we've done many other men's content, and you know, there's lots of other guys posting content like this, but this one just skyrocketed. And so it hit me. It was like, this is meant to be seen. And maybe a few of those guys from the comment section will, if I interact with some of them in a non-judgmental, non-reactive way, like maybe they'll turn the tide a little bit. Because, man, from a curious place, I tried to message a number of these guys that left hateful stuff, simply to say, like, hey, man, I'm just curious why you think that way. Where did that come from? 99% of the guys never messaged me back, never accepted my friend request. And so it showed me, it's like, if we don't have a willingness to come to the table, but yet you feel so strongly about something that you've never experienced, that you've never talked to anyone about, that you've never asked any of the guys, like, hey, did that help your life? Did that make you a more free within yourself and a better human? Then your opinion could actually mean something. But if you don't have that, it's like, it's not worth anything. Any good debater has to argue both sides.
Did anyone respond?
No, nobody did. And I messaged a lot of these guys back. The one saving grace that did happen, I would say, was there was several guys who I went on their page because it was public, and I looked at some of the things that they were up to. And one example is, like, one guy was a tattoo artist that wrote a hateful thing. And then I responded to him something like, hey, man, your artwork's dope. I love the tattoos that you're doing. That's really cool. Like, keep going, keep rocking. And he wrote me like a paragraph back being like, yo, I'm really sorry that I was joking around. I didn't mean it like that. I actually think what you guys are doing is super important and very powerful, and like, I just want you to know that you should keep going too. And I was like, look at that. Okay. That was encouraging to see that, at least from a few of the guys.
That's cool to do that in private, but you would not. What is it about the collective shadow of men that you are unwilling to speak that way in public? Like,
Yeah.
so you know that just makes me, you know, give that little rocks eyebrow or whatever. But it's like, well, what are you actually doing here? Yeah, that is crazy that that it had so much impact in such a wild way. These men are seeing something that they probably need themselves,
Yeah.
and so it is the light that is shining forth to them in their faces by the gift of the algorithm, which isn't it's not a gift too often. This algorithm is not so
No.
often a gift, but it was shining forth to them. It was gifting them probably what they needed most. And instead of showing up to be in that light, instead they reverted to letting their shadow be seen instead in response to that.
Yeah.
And that's wild. That does sound to me like, you know, some of those feelings that you had when you read some of those comments, it sounded like, you know, playground bullying. You felt like some of that bullied energy, and their little child self that little bullied self in them is showing up as the shadow there. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the bullied self. Hurt people. So their hurt inner child is the one showing up to say, oh, that's gay, because maybe they needed a space like that. Maybe they do need a space like that. It could definitely be argued that all men need to be involved in a space like this to some degree at some point in their lives. It's so important for, maybe the initiation process of your masculinity and your manhood,
Yeah.
but it's just so that we can continue to collectively heal and be the kind of masculine energy that we want to have in the world.
Right. And you know what you received from those experiences, and I know what I received, and it was like I got so much from. Was it weird the first couple times? Like, yeah, because it was a whole new experience, but I knew that I was also getting pushed to my edge, and I was like, shit, like this is, all of a sudden I'm standing by a fire and I'm getting questioned by all these guys in a way that I never have before, and it's making me look at myself in ways that I never have, and hold a level of accountability, and that was intense for me. And I've watched guys who are ex-military, special forces, UFC fighters, ex-professional athletes. I've been in spaces with all of those guys, and it's super challenging for all of them, and that's why we do it. There isn't really a lot of spaces for that in the modern culture, and so people will, they looked at our clip and they judged it based off that guy screaming, which it's like, if you knew the story behind it and what he was letting out and what came before that, like that, I think if anything, that made me a little more defensive. I'm like, you don't even know what's going on with this guy, and it's crazy that you're not even interested in what he just went through and what he's letting go of, because then maybe there'd be some compassion and you'd be like, shit, man, okay, that was all right, I get that. It's like, it's the bully energy. And then for me, it was like, I would get bullied, yes, but I always would stand up for myself. It was so easy for me to be like, all right, you want to bully me, like, let's go. And that physical altercation and fighting, like I boxed, I fought in hockey my whole life, like, so that's easy for me. But going into the emotional ring and being stepping into the fire and learning your edges energetically and releasing these emotions, that is one of the hardest arenas. And then for men, like, we're so suppressed in our feminine side that it would be like an avalanche. And I see this a lot with psychedelics. I saw you had Ian McCall on recently. He's awesome. I met him at a conference last year, a psychedelic conference. He was a UFC fighter, a
Yep.
champion.
Yeah, one of the best.
Yeah, and so it's even guys like that, they get into the emotional arena and they do some breath work. They do some of these exercises and they lose it because they finally opened up that floodgate of all the shit they had been suppressing. And this guy who had built such a tough exterior to hide from that, is now a complete mess. And you're just holding him through it. And you're like, it's okay, bro. I'm here. We're with you. And if you don't know, you don't know. And so if you can at least let yourself be curious and have the experience, I think that will start to shift things. And I want guys to know, similar to you, man, like you and I and other men that were in that space on the beach that day, like, we're not that different. We're really not. You
Yeah.
could say it's gay and like label me feminine and make fun of my man bun that I had in the video, like, but we have probably a lot of similarities, and mainly like we want to feel good, we want to enjoy our time here on the planet, we want to have loving relationships, we want to be in peace. Like, let's vibe on that instead of the hate and the judgment and all the shit that happens online, the troll energy. It's like you mentioned algorithms. If that's all we're focusing on, all the drama and the bullshit, and that's what we're feeding into the algorithms that are steering our attention and learning to capture us in that way, I mean, shit, how is that ever going to be released from the planet if we're on the internet all the time and it's just feeding us this bullshit, this drama? And so we got to be ahead of that, or else it's going to be a big problem in the future.
Ian McCall, he's a UFC fighter, one of the best. A whole weight division created behind him. He's been through a lot of stuff. He started doing drugs at like 8 years old. He's been through a lot of stuff in his life, and he is not the only man that has ever been through a lot of stuff in their life. I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. You've been through a lot of stuff in your life. You can show up to those men's groups with a mask on, you try to do that. Go show up to the first one, and leave your mask on, leave your shield on, leave your armor on if you want. Go ahead and try that. Try to do that 5 times. Go to one of these therapeutic masculine spaces and try to hold on to your armor just 5 times. I guarantee that you could not go to one of those spaces 5 times and not come out feeling opened up in some way, changed in some way, a little better in some way. It will feel so heavy to you. Probably after the first one, you're going to be like, man, I really held on to my armor that whole time. And then that second one, you're gonna let go of a little bit of armor. The third one, you probably won't make it past the third one
I was
trying
gonna
to
say it'd be
hold
tough
on
to
to
get to
your armor.
5.
It'd be tough to get to 5, but if you can, if you're really that tough guy and you really need to hold on to that armor, that's really important to you, that mask, whatever it is, go ahead, try to be in those spaces 5 times, holding on to that armor. It won't feel the same. It won't make sense to you to hold on to that weight of just this ineffective, unauthentic, disingenuous persona that we are holding on to all the time, that is socially constructed, and it's not it, it's not serving you as an individual. It's not serving anyone around you, and it's not serving humanity collectively.
Did you ever see the Work documentary?
The Work, I
It's
don't think
called The
so.
Work. It's this group that goes into prisons to do men's work.
Okay.
And the prisoners are involved. And some of these guys that have life sentences are the facilitators in the groups, or they're like playing main roles. And they have, as part of it, they have like 4 or 5 guys that volunteer, thinking like they're helping with the prisoners. And then it turns into a scenario where those guys end up like having the biggest breakdowns and breakthroughs and transformations. And one of the guys was like, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm interested. I want to see what happens. But like, they're saying I'm going to cry. I can tell you right now, I'm not going to cry. Like, that's just not a thing for me. And it was like, you're watching it and you just know it's like, this guy right here is in for it. And he did have that mask on, and he held it in for like a couple of days and was judgmental and was being a dick, but like was just participating. And then, yeah, by like the third episode, when the spotlight goes over to him, it's like he turns into a freaking demon, and he makes this like crazy demon sound, and he's this like pretty normal looking guy. He's a substitute teacher, but all of a sudden, when everything shifted to him, and they're like, what's going on, Brian? What's happening, Brian? He was just like, no, and he lost it. And then all the guys went over to him and embraced him, and he released this insane rage, and his ego came out full blast, and was like, fuck all of you, I'll fucking kill you. And then when he got it out, they brought him to the floor, and then he was just weeping, so many tears, and he was like, I love you guys, like, thank you. And it was, that's a great metaphor for what the guys that hold on the hardest and are religious with that mask and refuse to take it off out of some kind of fear, always they have the biggest meltdowns and breakdowns. And so when I was going through the comment section and I see these things and then they don't respond back to me, I was like, this is the substitute teacher from the Work, like, that's just holding it in, and I can't even imagine what's going on in there for him to stop, take time out of his day, write this comment to these people he doesn't know, to this guy who's releasing something that he has no context of, and say it's, the most hateful comment, or like, this is the gayest thing I've seen. This is gayer than gay porn. Like, so many different things. It just really, it hit me. So it's like, and then it brought in compassion. I was like, you know what? I see where these guys are at. I'm not making myself elevated from you. I just remember being there. And, I want you to know, at the end of the day, I'm you, you're me. We all want to be happy and peaceful, and we're not that different. So just like, remember that when you say that type of thing, you're saying it to yourself, So
Yeah, that's a great metaphor. The work, all of that documentary, all of that you just described there. That's a great metaphor for are you as a man going to commit to the prison that is your ego, that is your persona, that is your mask and armor of inauthentic masculinity, this broken, fragile masculinity that you have as a shield? Are you going to commit to the prison of that shield, or are you going to commit to liberating yourself and being a part of liberating others around you from this need for defenses? It reminds me also of one thing that Carl Rogers, a famous humanistic psychologist, said about the fully functioning person is that there is less need for defenses. There's no longer, when you are fully functioning, when you are
yeah,
actualizing as a man, when you are actually a man in this world, you're not in need of all of these defenses. When you are around the right people, in the right spaces, in the right relationship, all of those things, that you do not need to always be in defense mode against things. Relationship is always a great metaphor for all kinds of things. It's a great mirror. It's a great example. All of the shadows and lights and things are emerging in the container of that relationship. And
yeah,
when that relationship comes up, and the feminine challenges you, and you are an actualized man, you are a fully functioning in your masculinity, you no longer need to defend against the challenge.
yes,
The challenge is okay.
yeah,
It's accepted. But if you are going to commit to the prison of your fragile masculinity, yeah, man, I wish you the best, man. I wish for you to open up and get out of that someday. If you don't, I pray for the loss that is you as a man. But if you are going to commit to liberating yourself from that and others around you, then be blessed. I am with you. Thank you, Sean, for the work that you do in whether it's the Follow Your Path podcast or the men's groups that you're holding space for, the other things that you are involved in and will continue to be involved in. I'm happy to call you a brother on this path, in that same mission, in that same work to liberate ourselves from these crazy defenses and armors and these masks, to just be our authentic, free selves.
yeah. It's so well said, and I appreciate that, man. I love our brotherhood type connection that formed all those years ago at that kind of an event. I'm still so connected to a lot of those guys, and I met
Yeah.
them all there. It's like, because we went through such a visceral experience together of like new things and novelty and challenges. It's like that creates a bond, and I think a lot of guys are lacking that. I think because I've been in this work for a long time now, and I've studied so much psychology and behavioral stuff and spiritual science. It's like, so much of this is unconscious. So it's like, you don't even realize what's playing out. And I have to like really ground myself in to not judge any of these guys, because it's a subconscious pattern that's showing itself. And I think if we react to that, or if we respond at that level, um, the shadow continues. So it's like, there has to be compassion there. And I just want guys to know, I think my voice that comes in around this is like, hey, I get it, dude. And there's no judgment. And I'm just letting you know, if you are open, if you get to a point where, I hope you don't wait for the crisis. I hope you don't wait for the divorce and the breakdown and all the shit hitting the fan. If you can find a level of curiosity and you want something different, like, I'm here to have the conversation when you're ready for that. And you don't have to do anything, but maybe just look at like those labels and that hate and that judgment towards something that you've never done or talked to anyone about, because if you think about it, the energy of that has fucked up our world. It has caused so much separation and division and violence and hatred. And it's like, as guys, we can end that if you make the decision within yourself, because like we said at the beginning, that's a contribution to the whole, and your healing is our healing. We're all together in this. And if enough guys are doing that and they decide to get into a place of contribution, it's like, do it for your family, do it for your kids. If you have kids, do it for your future grandkids. Like, that's what's going to make this planet better, not the hate, not the trolly internet sludginess that people can get rolled into. It's like, we need to be able to not hold people in that and be like, hey man, I know that's not you. I know it's not you. And it's okay. I don't hate you for it. I'm not angry at you. I actually want you to know that I'll be here for you when the time is right for you to be like, all right, maybe I'll look into that a little bit more. So that's like my main kind of message with that. Because again, there's so much that's, you know, not great about the planet at the moment, and there's a lot of tension and division. And it's like, do you want to add to that really, or do you want to start planting better seeds for tomorrow, for the future generations, and also for you to feel better and more free and enjoy yourself more and have good relationships? Like, those possibilities are all here, and they're on the other side of that bullshit drama and blindness and lack of self-awareness. So any guys that's listening, like, that's my message. If you're kind of newer to this stuff, or you're just poking your head in, like, I just want to leave that here, because that's what's on my heart big time.
Absolutely. And you don't even have to have children. You are, as a man, like, you have a responsibility in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, like, responsibility means that you are a powerful entity and being in this world. You have a powerful responsibility. You have something of immense value for the collective whole, for this planet. Whether you have children or not, your impact is rippling into your community in minute ways and in crazy, catastrophic, big ways. How do you want to operate in that? How do you want to operate in that responsibility? What do you want that ripple from you to be into the world? I really love the to hear the passion from you, Sean, knowing just how much value that these men can give to their families and their local communities, and how that how that translates into somebody feeling more free within themselves, feeling less tension, feeling like they could just have an enjoyable human experience.
Yeah.
But it seems that we only get one life, and if that is the truth, man, you can make this an enjoyable experience. You got to do some work. You have some responsibility to be accountable for, but that's okay, and you're still gonna have a good time by doing the work in fulfilling that responsibility. This has been an awesome conversation, Sean. I really appreciate it. Where can people continue to follow you and be transformed by your work?
Recently, I've been really loving YouTube. So my YouTube channel is Follow Your Path, and you can just put in that in with Sean Graves, and that'll get you there. I've been loving the longer form instead of like the 90-second reels that are condensed, but Instagram too.
Again, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you for inviting me on. It was an awesome conversation, and I love this stuff. I love what you're doing and what this podcast represents. Yeah, we can do it again sometime down the road. It was super fun.
That'd be great. Sweet. Thank you.
All right, brother.
You're thinking, who is this man talking?